we live in extraordinary times in terms of biology, and particularly the biology of aging. And in the last 10 to 15 years, we really have gained an incredibly different understanding of the aging process. And so this has led to the identification of pathways, mechanism, and also potential drug targets. And today we have close to more than 10 drugs that actually are known to increase lifespan in a variety of animals. They not only increase lifespan, but also health span. And one of the most exciting aspects of this whole process of discovery is that today we're starting to implement this in humans. And you're going to be seeing in the next 10 to 20 years the development of a whole series of novel technologies with the potential of delaying aging. If I have to think about one single intervention that I think is partly calling attention is the idea of epigenetic reprogramming. And David is going to talk more about this. His lab works on it. My lab works on it as well. It is for the first time the ability to revert the aging process. And this really has generated a lot of excitement. So if I think about where we are today, after about 10 to 15 years of basic biology of aging, we're at an incredible time.
I think it's the greatest unsolved problem in biology. There are whales that live hundreds of years, and they're very similar to us genetically, but we do need to be able to either change our genomes or find medicines and other ways to enhance our systems so that we have the same kind of lifespans that they do. And we found the first molecule that activated a group of enzymes that seem to control the benefits of being hungry and exercising. It actually is a molecule that tells the body when it's time to fight disease and stay healthy. And as we get older, some of our tissues, they have less and less NAD, and without NAD, we'd be dead in probably 10 seconds. So this molecule NMN, not to be confused with M&Ms, is what we call a precursor to NAD. We can synthesize it. And when we give mice NMN in their drinking water, their levels of NAD go up about 50%. And that's when we see these remarkable health benefits in those old mice. They can run 50% further and they're resistant to radiation. And if this works, we could potentially have a pill that could mimic those things. We know that they're healthier, but will they live longer? That's what we're trying to find out. I was asked what's the most exciting stuff, and unfortunately I had to say stuff that we're working on. But I truly believe that so Eric and I have been working in this field for over 20 years, epigenetics of aging. And what that means is it's the cell's control systems, how to turn on genes on and off. And we find that the changes over time can be used as a clock to determine how old we are biologically, but also we think this system and the clock as part of it control the aging process, not just in the forwards direction, but in reverse. And in my lab, we can drive aging very easily in the forwards and reverse direction in animals, and we're going to be starting human trials hopefully in the next couple of years.
In 2012, Shinya Yamanaka won the Nobel Prize for showing that you can take an adult cell, say a skin cell, grow it in a dish, and put in 4 Yamanaka genes, Yamanaka factors we call them, and convert that adult cell into what we call induced pluripotent stem cell.
But the breakthrough is super exciting. We had a Nature paper in December that described the ability to put in 3 genes that are normally only turned on in embryos, that in the adult animal, this is now a mouse, we could cure blindness by making the eye much younger. And it's a permanent reset. In fact, we have the mice die old, but with very young eyes, with perfect eyesight. And that's just the eye. We're finding in the field, Eric and others are finding, that you can reprogram most tissues. In fact, I don't know of a tissue in an animal yet that cannot be reprogrammed and sent back 50, 75% in their age. And this is not just a temporary reset, this is a full reset. And you could imagine in the future, we have that ability to reset our bodies, not just once or twice, but perhaps dozens or hundreds of times.
When you damage the central nervous system in a very young animal or an embryo, it can grow back, but in an adult, it's impossible. So we took older mice and damaged their optic nerve just by pinching at the back. So normally those axons would die off and the mice would be blind. Instead, we saw with our 3-gene reprogramming combination, the optic nerves started to grow back and eventually did grow back all the way back to the brain.
Right. Well, the numbers are astounding. In this paper, we calculated with a couple of my colleagues in London, economists, that just for the US alone, we said 1 year would give us 38 trillion. If you extend 10 years, it's 365 trillion. These are numbers that are astounding and money that can be put towards other things as well, and solving climate change and education. So why aren't people paying attention to it? Well, the problem is that we've always thought of aging as something natural and unavoidable, as opposed to diseases. But actually, aging is a medical condition. The World Health Organization has declared it so. And increasingly governments, well, regulators across the world are looking at aging as a potential medical condition. But I still think most physicians think of aging as something you can do nothing about. But what we're here to tell you today is that's not true. In the same way that in the early 20th century, we learned how to fight infections, and in the 1970s and 80s, how to fight cancer effectively. We're at the same stage with aging. And now that the technology has caught up and we are able to control this process, much more people, and increasingly so, are interested in allowing doctors to prescribe medicines for aging, which would actually take care of a lot of the major diseases in the world. Because right now the medical system puts band-aids on diseases that happen because of aging, but too late once they've already occurred. So is this the next big thing? Well, let me tell you. So we're the three of us are on the forefront of this field. Our heads are spinning. The amount of interest just in the last few years has gone up exponentially by probably 100-fold. The amount of money that's being put into this field now is over $20 billion just privately alone. The governments around the world are putting more money in. Our field is growing. Young people are piling into the field. Mathematicians, programmers, biologists. It's similar to the early days of flight. And I think in 5 and certainly in 10 years, we'll gather at a conference like this and just remember that this was the beginning of something extremely important.